Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff. This show is designed to highlight the work of philanthropic leaders here in the United States and then beyond. Today with us, a very, very interesting guest. Her name, Carrie Barrat, and Carrie is the Director of LongHouse Reserve in East Hampton, New York. Let's all welcome Carrie Barrat. And Carrie, it is so great to have you with us. And as the new director of Longhouse Reserve, tell me a little bit about first Longhouse Reserve and then some of the challenges you might be facing.
Longhouse Reserve is the home and garden that you can see behind me. I'm actually sitting in the house outside. You might hear some water in the background. It's an open day today. It's beautiful. Longhouse Reserve was created by the great textile designer Jack Lenor Larsen in the early 90s. The house is based on the Shrine on the Ise Peninsula in Japan, where Jack visited, was smitten with it, and came back to land that he had purchased in East Hampton many years before, and decided, looking at it, to build this incredible house. The house sits on 16 acres, which when he bought it in the 70s was an old growth forest. And over that same period of about 30 years, he cultivated into one of the most spectacular public gardens in America. He opened it to the public a little bit after he lived here privately, entertained friends, was a great conversationalist, continued to design textiles, was a thriving businessman. But the garden he opened to the public, created a foundation as a gift to East Hampton, to all of Long Island, to anyone who might like to come and visit here. In my work, as I know Jack, I'm an art historian by training. We know that Jack said that the landscape really defined his design ideas, the textures, the colors, the interface between things, that nature was so important to what he did all of his life. A lot more to say about Jack. The greatest challenge that Longhouse faces, and the reason why I was brought here last October, is because Jack died in December of 2020, not of COVID. He was 93 years old. He died from complications after a fall. And there's something called founder syndrome, which many of your listeners or people watching us will know about. There's no way, even a place like this that planned, and Jack planned, talked about his demise and what would happen after he passed and how this property, this house and this garden would be kept. No matter how aware anyone was, there's really no capacity for they lost the visionary, the CEO, the man who walked around every single morning and planted things, redesigned gardens. So the loss for an institution like this is cataclysmic in a way. When I got here in October, what I found was a staff that was very sad, mourning, grieving, even in businesses, a grieving staff, a board a little bit asunder about what to do next, and every kind of issue that faces all of our cultural institutions, what to do next. Jack said, when I die, open my house to the public. And now we have to figure that out. It's the greatest, most wonderful challenge of all.
Yes, and you have a big challenge. I have been to the gardens many times. I've been to some of the galas, and it's the only public garden really that we have in the Hamptons that I know of. And it's quite extraordinary. Jack was a great philanthropist. He did something that many, many people never do in their lifetime, which is, most people never do or can't do, but he literally took his home and gave it and opened it up to the public. And I think it's very important to the community. It's a great place to go. I think it's a very romantic place to walk around. And the sculptures in the garden are absolutely exquisite. And so you have a big challenge on your hands, and I'm sure with your background, which I want to talk about in a moment, you will step to the plate and keep the Longhouse Reserve a thriving, beautiful public garden and public institution for all to enjoy. Now, speaking about your background, I understand you worked for the Metropolitan Museum of Art for over 30 years. And as all of us know, the Metropolitan Museum of Art is one of the most prestigious places in the world to work and considered really one of the most beautiful museums in the world. And what did you do there, and how can you take what you learned there and bring it to Longhouse Reserve?
I grew up at the Met. I learned what I learned there so much. What I learned there that I bring forward to my adult self today is that beauty creates human wellness. And the more that cultural institutions, and by cultural institutions, I not only mean art museums, but gardens, parks, zoos, anywhere people go to spend time outside of their home, looking and learning something new, is actually a very, very life fulfilling moment. The awe that you see in someone's face here and there at the Met, when after people bustle and they're getting out of their cars, I literally see shoulders drop when people come here. It's also, this is a big place. This is a big place, just like the Met. People who come to the Met and who come to Longhouse come for hours. It's a destination, so that is another thing that these two places have in common. But I'd go back to beauty and just how important that is. And even now more in this, when you mention challenge, would say that what we forget about, or try not to forget about, all of our institutions, the Met, Longhouse, and everything in between, is just what a struggle everyone's having now coming out of the pandemic. The gift that we can offer to our visitors is enormous. Our ability to stay open, to give, to tantalize. She said it's very romantic here. I see people walking around every day holding hands. People at the Met always said that's where I proposed, or that's where I fell in love, and that's my favorite painting. People come back. These places like this are truly, truly tantalizing. So there's a lot in common. I'd say between the Met, where I'm an art historian. I was a curator in the American Wing for 25 of those 34 years, making exhibitions on early American painting. I then became deputy director. And when the leadership transition in 2018, I called the New York Botanical Garden came knocking. And for 3 years, I was president and CEO of the New York Botanical Garden.
And how did that get you prepared for Longhouse?
Gardens, it was like a whole nother career for me. I'm a gardener, but I'm not, and I've learned so much about horticulture, botany, but I do think what I bring first and foremost is that interest in the human spirit, in resilience, and looking at, it came at just the right time, I would say, because when museums like the Met had to close during COVID, gardens like this and the New York Botanical Garden and public gardens all over the country pretty much stayed open. Some closed a little bit. There were timed entries and all those protocols that we've gotten used to. But the joy, even now, of knowing that it's healthful to be outside, that there's less of a chance. We're all still worried, right? They'll say, Jean, I'll say one more thing that we know from studies, that what most people are looking for in cultural visits to cultural places now, you choose, you have a little time, maybe a little bit of disposable income, you come, what are you looking for? People are looking for comfort and community. And comfort and community are community is the opposite of isolation, which is what a lot of us felt over the past 2 years. You need to get outside, and community is about being with people. And what could be better than that? Being with people outdoors is, to me, I feel so lucky to be here. It's the greatest. The challenges of running an organization are huge no matter where you go, but the opportunities of sharing this glorious place with visitors is surmounts that any day of the week.
And I agree with you completely that the beauty of a museum, or the beauty of what you're offering at Longhouse Reserve, is so important and so lifting. It lifts the spirit and lifts people out of the state of mind that we've all been through during the pandemic. Now, tell us a little bit about some of the exhibits, the art exhibits at Longhouse Reserve, because Longhouse Reserve is a garden, but it's also an outdoor museum.
Jack had there's a permanent collection here. Jack had loads of friends. He was friends with Yoko Ono. He's Dale Chihuly. He met Ai Weiwei, and these artists and many more have become. Buckminster Fuller has a great fly's eye dome. So there are pieces, the tried and true pieces that you will always see when you come. The pattern of the season of Longhouse is we open in April and we stay open until about Christmas time, depending on weather, is that you see new things every year. This year, the new pieces are a walkway pavilion, a shelter, a cedar shingles shelter built by Stephen and William Ladd, two brothers that created this amazing pavilion during the lockdown in their studio up in Germantown, New York. That's new on the property. We have these beautiful, beautiful, gigantic fishing lures by a Japanese artist called Moko Fukuyama. We are in July receiving a bamboo fish trap house, yet another pavilion that people will be able to walk through. I'm hoping maybe we can have a musician sit in it, by an artist named Cheng Sung Feng. He's coming from Taiwan to install this piece. The piece was literally, it's right now we're sitting here, it's June 16th, June 17th. The piece was shipped yesterday from Taiwan. So they built it in Taipei. They took it apart, put it in crates. They shipped it yesterday. It'll be here in about 2 weeks. And then he's coming with his studio mates to build it. And we will be able, our visitors will be able to watch them build it, which I think will be so, so amazing. And we have a lot more, but we move things around every year. This is our Dale Chihuly Blue Reeds, which everyone loves so much, move from place to place. So when we open in our Rites of Spring, we like to surprise and delight people. And then all summer long, we continue adding pieces to the property. Because Jack was an artist and he was a friend to artists, a friend of artists. So there's loads and loads of wonderful things to see.
And Carrie, you have a wonderful community of people that volunteer and that are involved with Longhouse Reserve, who really make up Longhouse Reserve's, part of the structure of Longhouse Reserve. And these people truly love the gardens, they love the sculptures, and I think they become part of Longhouse Reserve. Tell us a little bit about volunteer opportunities and other opportunities that exist at Longhouse Reserve.
We love our volunteers. They help us with everything from, we have volunteers and docents. Docents give tours. They're maybe a little more knowledgeable about plants, but we can always train docents to learn about the sculptures, like in a museum, to literally give a tour to people who come and say, I'd like to learn more about the sculpture. We have docents. We're always looking for more volunteers. And for anyone who might say, ooh, I'm an introvert, I don't want to give a tour, then help us at the front gate, be a greeter. When people come in, there is nothing better than seeing the smiling face of one of our staff members or a volunteer saying, welcome to Longhouse, what would you like to see? And people have questions and what's your favorite thing? What would you like to see? They just need to, I think on our website, which is longhousereserve.org, there's a button for volunteering. And we would love to hear from people of all ages too. We often think of volunteers as retirees, but in the summer, I had a friend who said that if I knew that if my 18-year-old son could volunteer at Longhouse, I would have told him to do that instead of watching TV all day long. We would love to see. We do have an internship program. For that, college students apply. That's paid. And if any students are listening to this who'd like to be an intern next year, you can apply. But if you didn't apply and you'd still like to put in some hours here helping me, I would be thrilled. I would be thrilled to hear from people of all ages who might just like to spend some time here. There's always things to do in the garden, in the office, in the shop, at the front gate, really everywhere. There's so much to do, and it's all really fun work. It's a great staff to work with. Thank you for mentioning that.
We are with Carrie Barrat, and she is the Director of LongHouse Reserve based in East Hampton. LongHouse Reserve is one of America's most beautiful gardens and most beautiful places of art. And Carrie, you have a very busy summer coming ahead. You have a gala on July 23rd, I think. And can you speak a little bit about the gala, and for people who might want to buy tickets and attend, how do they go about doing that?
The gala is the highlight of our season. It's all throughout the garden. It's the most lavish and wonderful cocktail party. We just had a meeting today about the kinds of the raw bar and the food that we'll serve and the drinks. We hire this year, I think we'll have 6 different bands playing all in succession out by the Willem de Kooning sculpture. We spread lights throughout the property so that people can wander, even though it's a summer evening. It'll be light. We learned, somebody checked today, it'll be light till about 9 o'clock. 6 o'clock, July 23rd. Again, longhouse.org is our website. And if you click on events on the top of the page, and then you'll find our benefits. You'll find the benefit and the link to all of our ticket prices there. It's possible to buy a single ticket. It's also possible to buy 10 tickets and invite a lot of friends. We love that. And lots of people do that. On that event page, Jean, people will also see a lot of other events. This year, we're doing a series of outdoor conversations. I'm calling them Longhouse Talks, which is me in conversation, kind of like you're doing with me, but outdoors, talking to architects, artists about their work that's here. Later in the summer, we'll be talking to people who are gardening experts. We're gonna do talks on bamboo. Wen Fang, our Taiwanese artist, is here. Bamboo is a beautiful, beautiful material, but also an invasive species, one that has spread throughout Long Island. Jack was known to have said that bamboo was the best and the worst thing he ever planted. The best because it's so beautiful, so strong, and it provides a kind of a buffer from us and our surrounding. And it quiets the place, but worst because it spreads everywhere. Our gardeners spend a lot of time trying not to let it walk all over the property. So there's series of talks, art, architecture, design, craft, and gardening. We also have on August 5th, which is Jack's birthday, we always do a concert. And this year we have Llewellyn Sanchez Werner, who's a classical pianist, a very, very talented young man who's coming to Longhouse. He came to visit, but playing at Longhouse for the first time in an outdoor venue. So that will be a magical evening. And then on Labor Day weekend, on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, we're doing our annual opera al fresco with singers from the Metropolitan Opera, again, a piano, and that's an enchanting evening under the stars. So we have lots and lots of opportunities for people to come to all of them. It's really, really, really wonderful. Because you're right about us we are the largest public garden. And of course there are outdoor concerts other places in the Hamptons, but I would say nothing like this, really nothing like this. Just so great.
Well, Longhouse is a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's so nice to know that you offer so much to the community at affordable prices. And I understand you have a very strong educational program for young children in school. And I think this is very, very important, because if we don't educate young people, we don't make the effort, then what are we doing, really? Talk a little bit about some of those programs, please.
We have, thanks to a very, very good education staff here at Longhouse, very strong relationship with schools throughout, not just the Hamptons, but Long Island. And I would say on average, we have 5, 6, 7 school buses pull up, and those children come for a day or the morning. Some of the tours are self-guided by a teacher. Some of them are led by volunteers. There's another great volunteer thing, nothing like being with a school bus full of kids. They eat their lunch here, they wander, they engage in Jack was a maker, so we love to offer activities where kids can make things with their students. We also encourage students after they've been here to make art, to draw, to write, to create poetry, sculpture, whatever their media might be, inspired by their visit. And we have right now, and up through the end of this weekend, our student annual, which is works of art from those kids who have visited K through 12, kindergarten through the end of high school. And you know, we hung the show a few days ago, and sometimes you can't tell the difference between the first grader and the 11th grader because everything is so inspired, and it all comes from something that they saw at Longhouse. So that show is up now for the next little while, and but that is such a those kids get a certificate from us. They get a phone call. Some of them get a ribbon, and school is out next week, I think, in Long Island. So we see then kids keep coming with their families. Children who've been here, this is also true of other museums like the Met, a child who comes to a garden or a museum with their class, if we've done our job right, providing a meaningful day, will go home and say, Mom, Dad, we have to go back there. We have to go back. And so we often find on weekends, families coming back, and the child has been here before, but the parents have not. So it's our relationship with, and we're accessible. You can run around here. It's just really beautiful, really, really fun place for kids to be.
And that's really wonderful to hear that families come back because the children are so inspired by what they see and experience at Longhouse Reserve. And something very important to every institution and to every group is financing. And looking forward, are you set at Longhouse Reserve, or are there very special needs?
We always need more money for education. I would say we're fine. The budget is balanced. Donations are coming in. Memberships are growing. It's the time of year when people join. We're in very good shape. So that's important to say first. Second, this is an institution, though, that now, with Jack's passing, needs to grow. Our staff needs more people. You know, we're a very lean team. I'm sitting here in the house that will, if we do as Jack asked, when we do, because we want to do what Jack asked, to open his house to the public, we're undergoing right now an architectural survey, everything from specialty engineering to accessibility issues. I would want everyone to know we're not changing the design, we're not tearing it down. My whole job here is to maintain Jack's legacy, and to what Lee Skolnick, the architect we're working on, says this will be the greatest project he's ever worked on, where you won't be able to tell that we did anything because it will look exactly the same. But right now there are some accessibility issues and other code issues that would prevent me. Everyone's asking, when can I come in the house? And you know, I can bring in people kind of 2x2 or 3x3, but we can't open the house to the public. That will require a capital campaign. That will require, when I know this is about philanthropy, that will require a concerted effort, a fundraising campaign that has never been undertaken by Longhouse before, and will have to begin probably next January. I don't know the numbers yet, but to repair the house, to open it, and to maintain this garden, this very mature garden, in the way that it deserves to be taken, is absolutely going to require more board members, greater philanthropy from the community, continued growth of memberships. Buy something in our shop is fabulous. That's our other revenue stream, is our shop. I have a new shopkeeper, and she has filled our shop with just the most lovely, lovely things, all inspired by Jack's vision: colors, weaving, scarves, cutlery, books. Everything is so beautiful in the shop. So I would encourage everyone to come buy things. That's another way that you can support Longhouse. Just come and buy a hat, and that helps us.
And Carrie, for someone who wants to donate, what is the website?
Longhouse.org. And that donation can be a ticket to the benefit, come to a party. There's a donate button, buy a membership. A membership also we have on, I talk a lot about wellness on Saturdays. During the summer, we have a program called Sound and Silence. It's a sound and silence meditation done by a woman named Adriana Barone, who has Tibetan singing bowls. Very, very beautiful. You can rest on a mat under the Buckminster Fuller Dome and just feel completely rejuvenated. And on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, we do forest bathing with Jason Amos. And that is literally a very, very slow walk through the forest. Last week, I saw some people hugging trees. It broke my heart. It made me so happy. The connection with nature. And those people, again, they come rushing in to make it to their class and they leave like just completely slowed down. And to me, and I just smile. That makes me so happy. That makes me so happy.
Yes, and Carrie, we have about a minute left, and you've been a wonderful guest. And I think the things you've told us all about Longhouse Reserve are so incredibly interesting. And just to take a visit there is just a fabulous way to spend an afternoon.
Please.
Now, absolutely fabulous. And what do you want to leave our audience with?
Oh, I think the world is a better place because of places like this. And you know what I could also say, because this is the Hamptons, is that, you know, there have been changes here that lots of people have questions about. Come to Longhouse, find me. I'm always here on Saturdays and Sundays. It's now my business, my priority, and my humble honor to be out on the pavilion, talking to families. Come, ask me questions, and you'll learn that we are a place that is staying open, thriving, and doing the very, very best work that we can think of for everyone we know. And that's all we can do. It's all we can do. Thank you, Jean.
Carrie, you've been a great guest today, and thank you very much for joining Successful Philanthropy. This concludes today's episode. Our guest, Carrie Barrat, she's the Director of LongHouse Reserve in East Hampton, New York. I'm Jean Shafiroff, your host. I'll see you next week.